Alright, hey there everybody, welcome to my channel and to this video. Today we're going to be looking at how you can build a custom shower niche or custom shower shelf. Just the framing, we're not going to be tiling in this video, but I will be doing that in a separate video as part of my shower renovation project. So be sure to subscribe or to search for that in a separate video. Alright, so here's what we're dealing with. We've got 3 vertical existing 2x4s as the frame, and I want to make some cutouts. So the big question is, where do I exactly cut? So the first thing I did was measure where I want the bottom of my shelf to be, my finished shelf. And I determined that I want it to be about 42 inches off the ground as kind of a good height. Or from the very, very low 2x4 at the bottom. About 42 inches up is kind of about waist high. And then I want it to be about 15 inches tall. So I'm going to be backsplashing it with this particular tile. And I just kind of went around to the tallest shampoo bottles around the house and said, okay, how tall do I want this to be? So I want it to be about 15 inches tall. Shampoo bottles are about 12 inches, and I give or take a few extra inches. So that's kind of how I determine my height. Now I can't just cut the 2x4 here 15 inches. I have to accommodate for my framing, my backer board, my tile, and a little bit of extra play. So you can press pause right here and check out the math I wrote right on the back of that drywall there. And so basically from my 42 inches down, I'm going to measure 15 inches up, and then I'm going to measure those accommodations for my framing and the backer board and all that stuff. And so below my 42 inch line, I'm going to cut about 2.375 or so inches down, and then the same thing on my top part of the frame. So in a minute, you can see that I will be drawing some lines and doing those cuts. But just kind of wanted to give you an idea. You'll have to accommodate for the framing elements that you'll be installing. Okay, so 42 inches is the top of my finished shelf, and so I'm going to measure down to accommodate about 1.5 inches for the framing of the 2x4, and then about 1/2 inch for my cement backer board, another 1/4 inch for my tile, and then I'm going to add about 1/8 inch, maybe a little bit more, for a little bit of wiggle room should I mess up, or if I make my mastic or my thinset too thick, for example. So I'll make that line right here, and then like I said, I'll do the same thing north of my 15 inch line, if that makes sense. And so those are going to be my cut lines. So I'll mark those with a marker in just a minute, and we'll make those cuts. All right, so I'm not going to actually cut on the 42 inch line. I have those X'd out, you see. So slightly below is my cut line, and I'm using a multi-tool. You could use a reciprocating saw, but that could damage your drywall on the other side, or your wall on the other side, and I'll be knocking those out. So a multi-tool gives it a pretty nice cut. All right, we'll get these knocked out and removed. There might be some screws attached to that drywall there. Just bust those out. Should be fine. And then we'll take the bottom 2x4 on the top and a 2x4 on the bottom and measure to width and make sure those are nice and level. Now I'm going to slope it down just a little bit as opposed to sloping the tile. I'm going to actually slope the 2x4 down a little bit for drainage. If water accumulates there, I don't want it seeping back or pooling anywhere. I want it to be, again, tilted down. So I'll just about 1/8 inch or so downward tilt, and we'll see how that turns out. So this is kind of what I'm at so far. Now I do need to put up the side walls. I could leave it there, but I want to not have the shelf have 2 tiles. So this is a 24 inch tile, and I want to make sure I only have 1 continuous tile, so I don't want to have a gap or anything. So I'm going to move my walls in on both sides just a little bit, and I'll do the same thing. I'll accommodate some space for the 2x4, about 1.5 inches for the 2x4, 1/2 inch or so for Hardiebacker or cement backer board, 1/4 inch for my tile, and then about 1/8 inch left over. And I'll pound those into place. Make sure they are flush, because we're going to be mounting cement backer board over that. You don't want them sticking out at all. And then we will secure with 2.5 to 3 inch deck screws. And that is pretty much it. Make sure everything's level and plumb. And we've got ourselves a custom shower niche. Pretty simple job, I would say.